Hi guys, welcome to my ulez update. I'm doing it from outside because I wanted to show you this dreaded thing. Yes, that's a ulez camera. We'll talk a little bit about that, but we'll also talk about what it means, what's coming, and why this doesn't just affect people with non-ulez compliant cars, but this is something that is going to be impacting everybody, and very soon.
Brown car guy. A brown car guy. Brown car guy.
So as you can see, the ulez cameras are being installed everywhere. I am near where I live, actually, in Kingsbury, in Brent. Brent is one of the areas that's going to come in to the ulez zone, the expanded zone, from August 29 this year, if it goes ahead as Zaka Khogyani, Mayor of London, is planning. So these cameras are being installed already over the whole of outer London now, and they have arrived here in Brent. They still appear to be up, and they still appear to be connected. Now the reason I say that is because there are, what do you want to call them? You can call them vigilantes, if you like. You can call them Robin Hoods of the road. But there are groups of people that are not something that I can encourage or condone, of course, but there are groups of people that are either disabling them, vandalizing them, or perhaps removing them altogether, and they clearly haven't arrived in Brent yet. Anyway, that's going on. Now what I'm going to do actually is, you saw where the camera was, so you saw that was behind me, and you can see this is the road that basically it was facing down this road, and as you can see, this is a quiet residential road. So you can see how this thing is going to penalize people, because all of a sudden all the people living down this road, some of which may not even realize that this is happening and this is coming to them, are going to be impacted by the new ulez charge, including me, for example, because of course, as some of you will know, I run a modern classic, a 1989 BMW 3 Series that is not ulez compliant. So every time I take it out, the cameras are already blanketing the area around my home, so inevitably I will have to end up paying whenever I take that out, as will the people on this road. Now here's the interesting thing, because they talk about compliancy and non-compliancy, and you know, TfL and the mayor keep saying that, well, you know, it's not going to affect that many people. They claim it's 90% compliancy. In fact, it's not, because even the independent consultancy firm Jacobs, which actually are the same people that did that report that proves that the expansion of ulez has negligible to negative benefit in terms of air pollution and benefits to society, socioeconomic benefits to the society are negligible. The same report also says that outer London has large areas with lower levels of compliance. That's 62 to 72%, so very far from the 90%. This also corresponds with areas of high deprivation in the north and east, including Hounslow, Ealing, Brent, Barking and Dagenham, North Croydon, Southern Kingston upon Thames, South Havering and North Brexley. The lowest levels of compliance, 58 to 67%, are shown in Hounslow. So when you're talking about those sort of numbers, you're talking about only 6 people out of 10 people have compliant cars. That means 4 out of every 10 have non-compliant cars and are going to be subject to the ulez charge. You talk about the amount that it's costing. Now we know for a fact that, we've discussed this in previous videos, but I'll just give you a reminder that the cost of doing this, putting these cameras up, is 160 million pounds is for the infrastructure to put these cameras up, and then there's 110 million pounds that not the government but the City of London is putting towards the scrapper scheme. So that's a total of 270 million pounds already that they are putting into this expanded ulez zone, which by all accounts is not particularly beneficial to the air toxicity levels in our areas. As you can see, I'm surrounded by green here, so you know, and the park is just across the road, massive park. We look at what he will earn out of this, and reports again are saying that he will earn 300 million pounds from the expanded zone. The 300 million pounds will obviously come from people paying for ulez, but also particularly from fines and things like that, because of course if you don't pay it, you get fined, and the fine increases if you don't pay within a certain amount of time. Now if we look at the the projection forward, 300 million in the first year, but zero income is projected by the year 2027. Now, why is that? Why are they saying that? Well, they're saying because that means that within 2023 now, 4, 5, 6, 7, 4 years from now, they're saying that pretty much most people will transition to compliant cars. In fact, this is one of the arguments that has been put towards this ulez expansion, that if you just leave things as they are right now, people are naturally transitioning to newer, more compliant cars anyway. More people are taking up electric cars as well. So there doesn't seem to be a real reason, a real urgency to do this. And in fact, another downside of doing this, another sort of, you could say, something that's quite destructive to London and particularly London's economy, is the loss of income that it's going to cause London. And this has been estimated at £500 million. The ulez extension, £500 million. This comes from the Centre for Economics and Business Research. It was a study that was commissioned by Howard Cox of Fairfuel, and they said that there would be £369 million loss on top of the £253 million loss that has already occurred because of the existing ulez zone. Let's negate the 253 because the ulez already exists in certain areas, so let's forget about that. But nonetheless, a £369 million loss compared to a £300 million gain in Sadiq Khan's coffers. And you just think that, well, overall, even though that might benefit him to an extent, but overall that's a negative. That is a total negative, and it is negative to London's economy. And again, when you talk about, and it's logical, because if you think about the fact that how ulez is going to impact businesses, how ulez is going to impact people coming into London and spending money. So many people have commented on some of my videos where they live outside of London, and they're like, well, you know, we're not going to come to London anymore. There's just no point. You know, it's just not worth it. So that's obviously an issue. But the thing is that those people need to realize that this isn't just a London thing. Already we know that similar schemes are being introduced or have been introduced in other major cities in the UK. But this is not what these cameras are about. This is not why that expensive effort to put all these cameras in place has happened. You know, you think, well, why were the cameras ordered before the consultation even started? The reason was because these are anpr cameras, automatic number plate recognition cameras, and they were installed for an entirely different reason, which is a stated claim, which is in documents, which you can find on the Mayor of London's website. You can have a look. In previous videos I've shown those documents, and I put links in there as well, so you can, if you look back through the playlist, the ulez playlist on my channel, you will find that. And it's a stated claim. It's very clear that the next thing that they want to do is introduce pay-per-mile. So the idea is that basically pay-per-mile will come. Now, pay-per-mile will not just stay in London. You can see I'm walking along this road. See how deserted and empty it is, and how green it is. This is leafy suburbs, literally. So pay-per-mile is coming, right? And this is going to impact everybody. Now, if you think about pay-per-mile, some people have said, oh, well, maybe it's not so bad if they scrap, you know, road, they call it road tax. It's not technically called road tax anymore. It's now VED, vehicle exercise duty. It's what previously was known as road tax. But don't forget, we're paying fuel duty as well. But people say, oh, it can't be so bad. Maybe if you pay per mile, it shouldn't be all right. But if you think about it, okay, some people have mooted as high as £1 a mile. Okay, it's not going to be £1 a mile, because that's not how they're going to be able to sell this to us. So they may come in and say, well, 10 pence a mile. 10 pence a mile. And you might think, oh, 10 pence a mile. Okay, that's not so bad. Do your sums. The average UK mileage, the average driver, does 7,500 miles in a year. So if you multiply that by 10 pence, that is £750 a year. How much is your VED currently? How much is your current tax so that you pay on the car, right? I pay £300. That's well over double what I would pay for a car that I don't actually use that much. £750, that's on 10 pence, all right? Say it's 5 pence. It'll still be half that, which is still a considerable amount, which actually hasn't saved you money at all. And this is coming to everybody. This is the other thing that I keep emphasizing, which people don't understand, is that, you know, all the people that are sitting there smugly going, well, my car is ulez compliant, I'm okay, or I drive an EV, I'm okay, or I drive a car that's over 40 years old. Not many of those people, and congratulations if you are one of those people, but that's okay. But it's not okay, and this is the thing, because when pay-per-mile comes in, it won't be restricted. Because one of the big things about, for example, the fact that the 2027 projection to zero And even without ULEZ, by 2030 you would have a projection of 0, because people will transition to cleaner cars, and electric cars will only be the ones allowed on sale as things currently stand from 2030. The fact is the government is going to lose a lot of income, a lot of revenue from taxation on those cars. So what's it going to do? It's going to broaden the net, it's going to widen it, it's going to make sure that they cover all the cars that they weren't covering before. So that will include EVs, and that will include compliant, ulez-compliant cars, and that will include classic cars as well, because it's the only way they're going to make their money. So anybody that's sitting there, that's smuggling, goes, well, it won't affect me. I have a compliant car. I will tell you right now, within a couple of years, with 2 to 3 years, look how fast this expansion was brought in. Compare that, and again, I've covered the timelines in previous videos, but if you compare when the original ULEZ, the congestion charge was introduced, when you consider the original ULEZ was introduced, how long between that and then the ULEZ extension up to the north and south circulars, and then all of a sudden, within less than a year, discussion, consultancy and confirmation of expanding it further to outer London to cover all of these areas, how quickly that's happened. So within a couple of years, they're going to go, all right, we're not making any money off this, let's switch to paper mile. And that's going to impact everybody. And you know, this and the thing about paper mile, again, I don't want to labor this too much, but I cannot emphasize enough how bad paper mile will be to the average motorist. If I can try and give an analogy, think of it of how you consume content on your TV at the moment. So for example, a lot of us now are subscribed to things like Netflix. I subscribe to Netflix, you know, and you're okay with that. You're like, okay, I pay an amount a month, and then I view Netflix as much or as little as I like. And then whether it's Prime or Netflix or, you know, or whatever the other ones are, Disney, Paramount, whatever, right? And you're like, okay, it's fine, you pay an amount, and then you know that you've paid it per month, and then it's up to you, you know, what you view, what you don't view. So think of that as your taxation, right? And then obviously you've got to turn your TV devices on, you've got to charge up your phones, your tablets, whatever you watch stuff on. You're using electricity, think of that as your fuel, right? And then every now and then you have something, say like a sporting event or something like that, that's pay-per-view, right? Or a movie, or a new movie that's just come out as pay-per-view, right? Think of that as paper mile. Now for myself, I don't know about you, you tell me, but for myself, I hardly ever do pay-per-view. Yes, we pay for the streaming services, but hardly ever do pay-per-view, because the psychological thought of saying, why the hell am I going to pay the extra just to watch? I'll wait till it comes out for free. I'll just wait. You know, that is the thinking. You know, it's maybe a small amount, maybe £3, £4, £2, whatever. But the psychology behind it is like, I'm just not going to do it. Why should I do that? I'm already paying so much. Why should I do that? Why should, you know, I don't mind paying, you know, 15, 20, 30 pounds to go and view a movie at a cinema. That's a day out, it's an experience, it's something else. But the whole concept of pay-per-view, you know, unless you're desperate to see a sporting event, and, you know, fair play if you are, but most cases you'd be like, no, why should I pay that? And I think that's the issue. And this is the psychological problem with paper mile, is that what you don't realize is that it's going to have a big impact on how people use their cars, because all of a sudden you're going to be thinking about every single journey. Every single mile will count. You know, all of a sudden those things, the trips, just driving just for fun, driving to clear your head. I'm a big believer in going for a drive. It really helps. I think there's a line in the forthcoming Fast and Furious movie, Vin Diesel is saying, you know, always helps him to think when he hits the open road, well, he won't be able to afford to do that anymore. Well, he will anyway, but maybe the rest of us won't. But, you know, you think about dropping off your friend or helping a mate out or just doing the school run, or, you know, all of a sudden, everything you're going to think of, helping friends out, doing charity runs, you know, all of these things, picking people up from the airport. Already, if you go to the airport now, you have to pay a pick-up and drop-off fee. That's if you don't park in the car park, which is expensive. So all of these things, the negative impact of this, ultimately you get to a point where you just go, it's just not worth it. It's just not worth it. And this is what they're trying to do. This is how they're forcing us out of our cars. I mean, look how green it is now. Remember, the camera was pointing down this road. Can I just show you this road? Look at this. That's why I'm walking down this road, to show you this, right? And again, as I said, the other thing I wanted to say is that cars and, ULEZ-compliant cars, EVs, people with those cars feeling smug, the people that feel even more smug are the people who got bicycles, because this is what they're trying to do, right? Get into bicycles. However, what happens if everybody does start riding? What happens if there is an increased take-up of bicycles? Well, there's only one other country in the world, tell me in the comments if you know what it is, that actually has number plates on bicycles. However, back in August 2022, there was a report in the newspapers that ministers were considering tightening the rules for the public use of bicycles, and that could include the mandatory use of number plates on bicycles. Why do you want number plates on bicycles? It's obvious, because then the anpr thing also then will apply to bicycles. So here you go. You know, all those people thinking, oh yeah, well, it's okay. I get all these comments like, well, you should just ride a bike, just get on your bike and stuff like that. How long before bikes are targeted? How long for, we already know that motorbikes are being targeted. How long before, and again, motorbikes, again, I'm not a motorcycle journalist, so I don't talk too much about it. Maybe I don't talk enough about it, but the reality is that motorbikes are actually less harmful to the environment, they're far more economical, they take up less space, you know, the carbon footprint is lower, yet they're being penalized. Well, bicycles will be next. It's inevitable. It's inevitable if you think about it, because otherwise how are they going to continue to generate revenue? The fact is that we already pay too much for the privilege of owning and driving our cars. So much, in fact, that we already have an issue where younger people are not doing it, because, and you can't blame them. Well, what is it like, 45, 50 pound an hour for a driving lesson? You know, you need like 10 to 20 lessons? It's insane. And then once you've got your driving license, you're talking about and buying a car, expensive, insuring, maintaining, running, parking. All of these things are putting young people off, and you can't blame them. So all of this is already happening. So again, another reason you think about, why do they introduce the draconian measures when, you know, people are already being forced out of their cars, people are already being put off, you know, driving and owning cars. What's the point of these sort of things? Certainly for young people, it's too much. And then moving on from young people, the existing owners, drivers, users of cars, a hardship story. I mean, again, you just have to go and look at my protest videos from places like Trafalgar Square, where I speak to the real public, the real people that are going to be impacted by this, and the real hardship stories that it makes you weep. It makes you weep when you realize, you know, people won't be able to see their friends or family, won't be able to care for loved ones, might have to give up their jobs, may have to, you know, take extra time to get around certain routes because they've got to avoid ulez zones. It's just bonkers. It just doesn't make any sense. And the other thing about it, of course, is that this sort of thing, combined with the LTNs, the low traffic neighborhoods, combined with the 15-minute cities, what is going on here? Because when you start to think forward, when you start to think about where this is going, what you realize is that you're basically, I don't know if governments have realized this, I don't know if the legislators have realized this, but you're creating a pressure cooker environment. You know, we are human beings. You start to hem us in, you start to, you know, prison us into areas, you start to lock us in. You're basically creating a pressure cooker situation. And ultimately that never ends well. And one final point I will make, again, about people are complacent about this. People think, it doesn't impact me. This is not important to me. This doesn't affect me. It won't affect me. It's happening. It's happening not only in London, it's happening throughout the UK. It's happening globally. Don't forget, Cannes is part of C40 cities, which is a global cabal of mayors, including the mayor of New York, and it has just been announced in America that the US federal government has allowed plans for congestion charging to go ahead in Manhattan in New York. So it's arrived in the country, the nation that probably has the most solid and long-standing love affair with the car. Even there, this is coming. So it's going to come everywhere. So everybody needs to stand up, take notice, and they need to start taking action now and start sending out the message that we are not going to stand for this. We need to be able to get around. We need to be able to drive our cars. We don't mind doing it cleanly. We don't mind waiting for, you know, compliant cars, for electric cars, whatever works. That's a whole different story. But we cannot be forced out of our freedom to own and drive our cars. There you go. Check this out. Isn't this beautiful? That's just a 15-minute walk from where I was. And this is the road that's going to be penalized. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next video.
Brown car guy.
Hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, please hit the like button and share this video as well if you can. And while you're at it, check out these guys who also sponsor my content. I am deeply grateful to them because it helps me to buy new equipment, put fuel in the cars, and yes, buy a cup of coffee. You can do the same. Just go here or right here on YouTube. Just hit these three little dots down here and click on thanks. Make sure you're signed in first. My content is free, but this is how you can help me keep it that way. I may even send you a gift. Oh, by the way, watch this next.